Welcome to Trials 101. The next 4 lessons will give you an introduction to the basic skills you'll need to ride a Trials bike. The first thing I'll teach you is throttle control. Most new riders think that full gas is the fastest way to the finish line, but it's not. While applying the gas gently will make you ride slower, it will also help you stay in control of the bike. For this first lesson, don't worry about speed. Apply the gas gently and focus on getting to the finish line. In the next installment of Trials 101, we're going to learn the basics of leaning. To truly master Trials riding, the rider and bike must work together to overcome difficult obstacles. In this lesson, when going up a slope, lean forward over the handlebars to stop the bike flipping. Equally, when riding downhill, it's wise to lean backwards for the same reason. If you concentrate on your leaning and use throttle control, you'll find a steady rhythm through the track. So far, you've learned to gently apply gas and to lean at the right time to avoid faulting. So the next technique to understand is mid-air rotation. When you're in the air, shifting your body weight will make the bike rotate in the direction of the lean. Gentle adjustments of the rider's position will ensure the wheels are always underneath you. Experiment here by getting air, then adjusting the bike to land on both wheels at the same time. Also, don't forget to gently apply the gas to land in a better location. This is the final Trials 101 lesson, flow. Maintaining a smooth flow through a track is key to getting a faster time. On this track, I want you to combine everything you've learned so far. Lean forward to go up the first ramp, then only apply enough gas to land on the downward slope. While in the air, rotate the bike to ensure you land smoothly on both wheels and repeat this until the end. Your goal is to maintain a smooth flow through the entire track. Good luck! You've been given a bike that is heavy and has pretty bad acceleration, but the bike has a high top speed. To get the most out of it, you'll need to master the next technique, transitions. I use the term transitions to describe the rider shifting their body weight when you go from a track to a ramp. If you get the timing wrong, you'll either find yourself doing backflips or have the bike lift off the ramp. As you accelerate towards the ramp, lean back and slightly lift your front wheel through the start of the curve. Stay in that position until your rear wheel is about to hit the steep section. As the rear wheel gets close, shift your body weight forward and continue to lean as you accelerate up the ramp. If you get the timing right, you'll see that there is no slowing down and that you'll carry your speed all the way through the jump. What you need to be focused on is where your front wheel is as it moves through the transition. If you dig your front wheel into the ramp, you'll see the load on the front suspension increase significantly. The suspension will react to this by pushing back and lifting the front wheel off the ramp. If you lift the front wheel just enough to avoid those significant suspension loads, you'll notice a smooth transition onto the ramp. Slight changes in the timing of your body weight shift can have a huge impact, so be patient when you're practicing. Speaking of practicing, now it's your turn. See how far you can get, and remember, you can always come back and improve your grade another time. So far, you've been focusing on going fast and climbing into the air, so it's probably a good idea that we discuss landing in more detail. Normally, this isn't too difficult as you just make sure your wheels are underneath you, but there is one situation that requires more skill: uphill landings. This technique is very useful as you'll find increasingly difficult examples as you continue your journey. The key elements of this technique are rotating your bike to make sure you land correctly and then only using enough gas to steady yourself before moving on. The bike rotation is achieved by leaning from side to side, and your aim is to get your wheels to land at about the same time. Just as the bike meets the ramp, lean forward to get your body weight over the handlebars. This will help you get balance and grip. You'll want to press the gas hard enough to stop you rolling backwards, but gentle enough to avoid lifting your front wheel. This is a skill, and you'll need practice before it comes naturally. The most common mistakes riders make is to either accelerate too hard and flip backwards, or to lean too far forward, which will lift the rear wheel into the air. Trust me, you don't want that to happen. Speaking of that, if the rear wheel lifts, you've got no power. If this happens, tap the brake. This will bring the rear wheel down, and you can then use the gas to get back under control. The next track we've created will definitely test what we've covered, especially at the higher grades. Focus on the technique rather than going fast, and if you get stuck, you can always ask for help. The bike you'll use here is more agile and has much better acceleration, but unless you know how to use it, you'll spend most of your time on the ground. This next lesson is focused on getting you familiar with the new bike's handling and to teach you one of the key riding techniques, the bunny hop. A bunny hop is where you'll use your body weight to make the bike jump over large gaps or up to higher ledges. The bunny hop is the most important technique to learn, so even if you've skipped over other lessons, pay attention to this one. To get an understanding of what's happening, consider that your rear suspension is a spring, and the more pressure you apply, the harder it bounces back. This release of pressure and shifting your body weight will make the bike jump. As you start accelerating, sit back on the bike and load the suspension to build up potential energy. Pay attention to the load on the rear suspension, and when it's at its maximum, release the pressure by leaning forward. The timing of these two movements is crucial to get right. Experiment with slight adjustments of the timing of each until you feel confident with the bunny hops you're performing. The final part of the bunny hop is designed to maximize the height of your jump. Lean back to load the suspension, lean forward to release the pressure, and then quickly lean back again. What you'll see is that this final step will lift the bike underneath you and ensure that the back wheel doesn't hit anything. The next track will test how well you've understood the bunny hop by making you clear bigger and bigger gaps. You won't get far unless you've understood this lesson, so take your time and let me know if you need any help. If you're watching this, you've chosen to be the best rider you can be, and wow, that gets me excited. As you've made it this far, it's time to ramp up the difficulty with the next lesson, uphill obstacles. For the purposes of this lesson, uphill obstacles refer to any time you approach a jump from an uphill slope or a ramp. If you haven't already figured this out, now is the time to truly master throttle control, which is where you use the gas very gently and only enough to maintain control without flipping backwards. Before you even get into this lesson, practice slowly going up and down at the start of this track, only using throttle control to maintain grip. Most steep inclines you come across can be passed by using this technique, so it's a very helpful thing to master. Where uphill obstacles get more complicated is when additional objects are included, such as a vertical section at the top. The technique here is to accelerate at the base of the ramp, but after you build up speed, ease off the gas. Only when your front wheel has cleared the obstacle, lean forward and you'll get over the object. If you hold gas all the way to the top, you'll be pushed backwards, and as you'll learn, sometimes going slower will actually be faster. As you get to the harder grades, there will be jumps where you don't seem to have enough height to get over them. The trick is to lean backwards and slam your rear wheel into the obstacle and then lean forward. But we'll cover that more in the next lesson. There is one last technique that is especially useful when climbing high objects. When only your front wheel is in contact with the object, press brake. This will allow your momentum to carry your bike over, and when the rear wheel is higher than the front, let go of the brake and roll forward. If you're having trouble getting the back wheel high enough, rapidly tap brake while accelerating and your rear wheel should rise up. This is a hugely important technique, but unfortunately, I can't say its name. Let's just call it flapping? On that note, let's get right into the next track. When you start riding more difficult tracks, you'll usually find a jump that you look at and say, that's impossible. In my experience, it's just that you don't know the correct technique to use yet. One of the most common examples is the subject of the next lesson, flat obstacles. This technique focuses on passing an obstacle from a flat surface. This is more difficult as there is no ramp to assist you, so you'll need to use a different approach. When the obstacles are round, performing a bunny hop and leaning forward is often enough for the smaller jumps, but that doesn't work for square objects. If you try to bunny hop, you'll find it increasingly difficult to climb that height. So the tip is to slam the rear wheel and bike frame into the corner of the obstacle and then lean forward. If you get this right and with enough speed, your momentum will get you up and onto the obstacle. As the obstacles get higher, you'll have to do more to get the extra height required. Prior to performing a bunny hop, lean forward. What you'll notice is that when you lean back, there is extra pressure loaded on the rear suspension, and as we've covered previously, this increases the height generated from the bunny hop. When you combine leaning forward before the bunny hop and slamming your rear wheel and bike frame into the obstacle, you'll be climbing things you never thought you could. For the maximum height on a jump, rather than just leaning forward, performing an endo before the jump will give you a huge boost. An endo is performed by leaning onto your front wheel and balancing before the bunny hop. When you lean back for the bunny hop, you'll get a boost from the additional pressure on the rear suspension. That's good to remember, as you'll use it a fair bit now that you know about it. As any good professor knows, a lesson is only as good as the grade your students get, so make me proud. And as always, if you're struggling, you can ask for help. But don't forget to go back and improve on the prior lessons as well. Mastering the bunny hop is very important. However, there will be situations where one isn't enough. At times, you'll need to string a series of bunny hops together to maintain your speed and clear a larger gap. This technique is known as consecutive bunny hops. As this technique is about maintaining your speed while performing bunny hops, I'll assume you've already obtained a high grade on the bunny hops lesson. If not, I'd strongly suggest you attempt that again and only come back here once you've achieved a B grade or higher. To start this lesson, we'll perform a bunny hop as we've covered before and focus on the second gap. The key to this technique is to use your bike's rotation and the force from landing to create the load on the rear suspension. Sit back on the bike and land with your front wheel slightly earlier. Doing this will put the maximum load on the rear suspension, and when you hit that point, shift your body weight forward and perform another bunny hop. Lastly, remember that this technique is about the bunny hop and the next landing, so plan ahead and know how you want to land before taking off. As you progress through the grades, the technique is the same, but you'll have to slightly adjust your landings and link a number of jumps together. It won't be easy, but if you remember what we've covered and practice, I know you can do it. Now, show me what you've got. This is an advanced technique that requires balance, perfect timing, and has little room for error, so you can't say I didn't warn you. Welcome to the final lesson, rear wheel bounce. When you accelerate, only the rear wheel is powered, and therefore, only the rear wheel needs to be in contact for you to continue through a track. This technique is very similar to the bunny hop which we've already learned. However, when you compress the rear suspension, you have to manage the balance as well. Your aim is to ensure that the weight of the bike is evenly distributed, with the rider on one side and the front wheel on the other. If you've tried this before, you'll know it's easier said than done. Let's start with the bike rotation in the air as you approach the jump. You'll want to lean backwards and land on the rear wheel at roughly a 45-degree angle. If your front wheel dips down, lean backwards next time. And if you find yourself flipping backwards, lean forward a little. There's not much room for error, so it's really about finding that sweet spot where you can bounce onto the next obstacle. When you land, take note of the compression on the rear suspension, and like a bunny hop, when the load is at its maximum, lean forward to jump. While timing has been important previously, it's even more crucial now. Time the hop to the point where there is load on the rear suspension and you're leaning forward slightly. Again, experimentation and practice is what you'll need to do this consistently. That's it. I've done all I can to help, so the rest is up to you. Your focus now should be on working to improve your grades. I don't want you to stop until you have an A+ on each track, and if you can do that, I'll arrange a little graduation present just for you. Good luck.